Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. I'm Andeea, a licensed addiction counselor, and along with my co-host, Laura Kissmann, a quantum nutritionist, we will be inviting expert scientists, clinicians, survivors, and thrivers to distill their pearls of wisdom attained from applying quantum biology to their fields of research and everyday lives. Our goal is to bring you easy to understand principles and practices about the study of light, water, and magnetism so you can take your health into your own hands. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. Today, we have our dear friend and colleague, Dr. Kelli Ritter, on the show. And Dr. Kelli she has a PhD in counseling. She's a licensed professional counselor. She's a functional nutritional therapy practitioner, certified recovery nutrition coach, and also, of course, certified in applied quantum biology. We had an amazing conversation. We touch on all her specialties, being nutrition therapy, gut healing, supporting how we support our mood, how we support our stress levels naturally, and also anxiety relief. Kelli offers very unique courses that I just have not seen other people in our space offering. So do check those out. She also talks about her new mentorship offering, and she is the host of the Nourish Soul podcast. If you have not listened to that yet, do listen. There'll be a link in the show notes, and let's dive into the episode. Enjoy.
This is going to be a really fun conversation.
I know. So why don't we just start by you explaining how you came across quantum biology?
Okay. So I had already started feeling personally like I wanted to understand mitochondrial health. Just some of my own little lingering health issues with thyroid, and I just wondered if I could feel any better. So that's when I started kind of understanding mitochondrial health and kind of being interested there. And then my son got really sick and he started having chronic illness issues we could not quite figure out. A lot of anxiety and panic attacks, which is supposed to be my specialty. And here I couldn't help him, and it was really frustrating. And he had a really bad day one day, and I just suddenly signed up I'd seen the QBC around. I don't know. I kind of poked around a couple times, and that day I was like, whatever it is, I need to learn this. If it can help him, which it completely changed my life. So, I mean, it's just, I started understanding things differently, obviously, but also I started making changes in my life that have ultimately been so helpful for me, but also ended up helping him.
Amazing.
Now, lead by example, right?
Yeah, you have to, because he was already 17 when I started the process. So it's not like I was going to make him do anything. And he's 19 now. And so it's just amazing to watch how much he is healed and how much better he is. Yeah.
That's amazing. Now, I want to ask you about the word quantum. Now, the name of our podcast is Quantum Healthy. We're not afraid of using the word quantum. I'm not afraid of using the word quantum. And I know you share the same belief. It can be an intimidating word for some people because, they don't exactly know what it means. But I've heard you on a few podcasts share a little bit. And so that's how I know we are in agreement. So I would just love for you to share just your take on it.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten advice from people, right? You guys can appreciate this. Like, I think you should drop quantum because nobody knows what that means. I have a stress management course and it's quantum stress management. And they're like, I think you'd sell more if you drop quantum. No, I'm not going to. That's the whole point of the entire thing. And it's what's powerful. We're talking about the smallest changes that you can make that have the biggest impact in your health. So quantum being the smallest of things, subatomic, it's not that complicated. And the practices, the applied part of this is actually really simple. And it's about being in harmony with your natural environment, getting back, not just being, admiring nature, but actually being in nature and being connected in a very powerful way that's on a subatomic level. So, yeah. Does
Oh,
that
well,
explain it?
beautiful. I think you might have to quote that one, Andeea. It's beautiful, the harmony.
Yes, that is exactly my feelings about it too. Yeah, we don't need to be intimidated by words. In fact, being a counselor, it really just is hard on my heart when people are so stuck on a word that it hinders their healing progress. So if, like, in the recovery space, it's always the word God that oftentimes people will, not that that has to be in recovery
Mhm.
anyway. That was often a word that would hinder people's healing processes. And I just hope that quantum is not one of those words, because yeah, it just means we're talking about small stuff. And it's actually pretty simple, which is
Yeah.
one of the goals of this podcast, is sharing that message. So I thought it was just perfect and fitting to have this
Uh,
question for you. So when it comes to stress and mental health through a quantum lens, so I heard you and Kelly Erickson talking about the light show inside of us. And I absolutely loved that conversation. And I was just curious if you would share a little bit about that, and then also what you teach in your course in regards to stress and mental health.
Sure. So I think the most powerful piece for me about learning quantum health was realizing that we are light, and not just, I thought about that kind of in spiritual terms, like, oh, we are light. No, no, literally. And the light inside of us is, I don't really think there's anything more powerful than tending to the light inside of us that we literally make in ourselves. So, not just this metaphorically or spiritually, but real practical ways to tend to that light became really important, fascinating. Like, I just couldn't think of anything more important, particularly around mental health, but health in general. And I just, what can light up in your brain with, once you understand mitochondrial health and you understand circadian rhythms and how to optimize everything so that you're having a literal light show all throughout your body, not just your brain. And it's so healing. All the inflammation that you've been walking around with for probably decades starts to diminish, and then you can actually feel more connected to yourself, to your higher self, spirit, whatever that is. And so that's, I think that's what Kelly and I were talking about, the light show inside of us. It's just, we're really amazing creatures and we are made to heal. And it's just more, the more I dig into quantum, the more I'm like, well, this is fascinating how we're made and the way that we're designed. It's just, we're more miraculous than I think anybody could ever even wrap their brain around.
I I know. I think listening to your podcast, I guess I should ask, where you came to the quantum biology, did you listen to Dr. Jack Kruse? And the reason I ask is because he talks a lot about the VUV-IR light that our mitochondria make, and how that light inside of us is so important, and that interesting light show. But do you listen to Dr. Jack Kruse at all, or have you in
I
your journey?
didn't. I
You didn't?
know.
Oh,
I'm the one that, I know, I
an
didn't know
outlier. Yeah,
Uncle Jack was not a part of my life. And I
interesting.
tried, I think I saw all the cool kids following him on social media and thought, oh, and I didn't understand what he was saying. So I just didn't, I don't know, it didn't resonate with me until much late, till of course I started
Yeah,
cleaning my own brain, and then I can understand what he was saying.
interesting.
And I still, no, I got in a different way, which was interesting for me, really starting to understand mitochondria from somebody completely different, not even in the quantum space. But then I found Carrie Bennett, and then game over at that point.
Game
Mm-hmm.
over. Yeah, so much to learn. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. Did you have a
Mm-hmm.
question, Andeea? Because I can keep going. You don't
Yeah.
think.
Well, I'm always curious, especially when it comes to people who are in the mental health space, if you've treated anybody so far that had co-occurring substance use disorder, and how you've seen quantum practices help people in recovery. And even if it it could be a behavioral addiction, a substance use addiction, anything like that. But would love just for you to share any kind of cases that you found interesting or any surprises.
Yeah, so I love this question because nobody ever asks me this, and I avoided some substance use disorder like the plague all
Mhm.
through graduate school. Yeah, I thought you'd like this, Andeea. Like, really? Yeah, all through school, all through graduate school, into my career, I was really working with children. And yeah, there were substance issues there. And yes, I was working with families. When you work with children, you work with families, and there was definitely substance use disorder going on there. But I avoided it because I felt like at the time, I was like, I had so much baggage around having an alcoholic father that I wasn't sure I could show up and be really kind and empathetic and present for people that were struggling there. And I really struggled with the whole disease model of addiction. Yeah, but a lot of that was from my own baggage.
So
Fast.
how do
Yeah,
you,
yeah. Sorry,
when you
Lex.
say disease model, meaning
Yeah.
it isn't a disease or it is a disease?
Right. I just always struggled with, I felt like my dad made really horrible choices, and he did.
Okay.
But
As a,
I really struggled with, like, is this really just a brain problem? Like, does he, and he truly did have, he's passed away now. He truly did. I get it. But at the time, I wasn't sure I could get on board hook, line, and sinker with helping other people with the way that I saw the industry going. And so what's interesting is that I taught students that worked in substance abuse. At the time, it was called, substance abuse, drug and alcohol counseling. So I had students and I supervised students. And I also, yeah, I had supervisees that were trying to get licensed that I work with. So I was always kind of on the outskirts. And then I actually experienced my own issues around alcohol use. And then more importantly, food addiction. And that, Andeea, is when I was like, oh, crap. Like, I was probably actually avoiding this because it would have been too hard of a truth to swallow at the time. Yeah, not just because I had a dad and had some issues, but it's just interesting. Hindsight is interesting. So now these days, I do have folks that come that have, especially because I've been very open about my issues around food addiction. And so I have people that will come that have had substance use disorder and are now in recovery, but I don't advertise as that. Surprisingly, not that many people have come with that
Mhm.
issue that they want to work on, but it's true, when you work with people with stress and anxiety and mood issues, like, of course substances come up. So what's amazing to me now is that the quantum health practices, right, these applied practices that we all have, make such a huge difference in recovery. It's made a big difference in my own recovery. It's made it continues to make a difference in the people who come to me for support in that area, but I don't have specific cases for you.
Well, the best case is our own case. First, I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable.
Mm.
And yeah, would you want to share maybe some of the things that were really needle movers for you? Because you eventually made a choice to stop consuming alcohol and things like that. If you want to share anything, any details around that.
Yeah, and at the time, it turns out that quitting alcohol was the easiest thing I quit. I've had to quit some other things. I was also on a medication for migraines, but I took it in a way. So I should have kind of known that I had an addiction brain, just the way I go at certain things. I had a hard time regulating it. It was Fiorinol is what it was called. So it's a narcotic that I was using for migraines. Legit.
Yeah.
And then you start using it in a way that just, in your heart of hearts isn't right, where I'm just using it whether, and then you have to use more because it's not working, the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So for me, sunrise practice. So I'd already cleaned all that up. I was already alcohol free for almost 4 years when I started kind of realizing that, hey, I also have an issue with certain sugar and dairy, and I don't moderate certain other things. Crap. And then you realize, like, oh, this is the thing, like food addiction is a real problem for people.
Mhm.
And what has made the biggest difference for me, what made the biggest difference at that time was learning about sunrise. I did before I understood quantum health. Somebody said, go out for sunrise, it will help you. And I did. And it was a needle mover for me. And then red light therapy was a huge benefit for me and my brain and reducing inflammation and the blue blockers. So I wore my blue blockers last night. They're now in the other room because I moved them in there, but I was not blocking the artificial light at night until I was well into the quantum health space. And then when I started doing that, everything really started to fall into place and become
Yeah.
a lot easier. So the years and years and years of meditation practice and yoga and tapping and all the things that I've learned and all the trainings I've done to try and, help other people and help myself started working much more effectively at that point. And that's really why I like teaching courses and helping people with all these different pieces, because my stress resilience, I noticed a huge improvement in just being able to tolerate things that are hard and stressful. And when my son was really sick, I would still wake up like ready to go every day. I was so blown away. And that was 100% because I'd added the quantum health practices. I had already done everything else. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. Low stress tolerance is definitely something that, whether you have a food addiction, a substance use addiction, or what have you, is
Yeah.
something that comes after when we're in recovery or abstinence, whatever you want to call it. So that is amazing. I hope anyone who is suffering from low stress tolerance or stress in general hears this. And it's funny about the blue blocker thing. I'm in the camp of, okay, I learned about the blue blockers. I know I need them. I know I need to do that. Purchase the thing because I want what's on the other side of that, which is, oh, it's healthy for me. Oh, it's going to benefit me, blah, blah, blah. And then get those blue blockers and they sit. So I think that and I don't know if you're in this camp, Laura, but it takes a while for, especially when there's a purchase of something, a lot of times like we're all in and we have
Right.
every intention, but there is this lag because behavior change is hard and to, you know, start to whatever the behavior may be. And so I think that a lot of people learn about the blocking of blue light, and the more and more we talk about it, the more and more I think people will understand that it is something like I wish I would have worn my blue blockers on a steady regular basis as soon as I purchased them, but they did sit for a little while before I actually got into a habit. And at the time I was confused of which colors I was supposed to wear at what
Right.
time
Right.
of day. And so
Right.
there was just like, okay, I have to learn about this and I don't have time. So I'm just not going to wear them at all until I know. So yeah.
If I could add, I was the opposite. I was a really early adopter of blue blockers. And I think the why was because I was a night owl, I would work late, I'd be on the computer, and I have them down here. I would dig them out, but there's a big golden retriever here blocking my the cupboard. But they're the old Uvex ones, the big yellow that went around. They're ugly as, I never didn't wear them really in public, but I worked on my computer at night. And the difference of wearing those, even though they were only yellow, they weren't orange yet, it stopped the double vision, and the immense eye strain. So for me, I learned about that a lot, like, gosh, 2016, 2017 probably. But it was the learning, I think when we finally took the course, hearing about this option, one of them is Viva Rays that had the three colors, and hearing people, some of our mentors say, oh no, I wear the red ones. Like the saying is, what is it? Orange
Bed
after
before
sun,
bed.
red before
Yeah, right
bed,
before bed.
but orange after sunset. I thought it
Yeah.
rhymed. But anyway, that's basically, if you can remember
Mhm.
that, that's it, right? But to
Mhm.
hear that they were so strict, with putting the orange on, right? I do it at dusk. I find sunset, I like still to enjoy the light. And if I'm eating, I want to see the colors better of my food. But the red, that practice of putting the red on half an hour before bed, even, or 15 minutes, is just, it's the best sleep aid that I know of, So anyway,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's important. What we're saying is really important. We all had a different process and we all got here, and you're
Yeah.
learning, and it's a lot sometimes. So to be just really gentle with yourself, and whether you're in the camp that bottom, like me, I was the same bottom and they sat around for a while, or you're like Laura, like you, where you that's was a way in for you and you could see the benefits. However people get here, just get here and do the best you can.
Yes.
Like,
Nice.
that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. On that, a couple things, Kelly, when you talk, one of the two of you mentioned stress bucket. I think that with the blue blocking,
Mhm.
it's, we all have a stress bucket during the day. And if someone isn't, like you talked about, in recovery, or your son with anxiety, if you can then just lower the stress with the light stress at the wrong time of day, it does make
Mhm.
sense, why that would help mental health or getting over an addiction
Well,
with ease,
everything.
you know?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
so much, I mean, incorrect circadian timing of everything, which is largely influenced by light and dark, but really that light signaling, if that is off, every single thing is going to be off. Almost every function in the body is influenced by circadian rhythms. So it's a huge stressor, I mean, on the body to have the wrong light environment. And so if people can just get that piece,
Peace.
it's their stress bucket it's going to help the stress bucket not get overflowing as quickly.
Yeah. Something else you said helped you with in
Mhm.
this journey. You mentioned red light therapy, and I know you talked about sunrise. So I always think of sunrise as red light therapy, and sunset. Were you referring to photobiomodulation, like using a red light machine? And if you were, could you tell us a little bit about how you've used that and how it's helped?
Yeah, so I bought it for I am talking about photobiomodulation and biohacking that a little bit because I was already out for sunrise, and I wasn't as great about spending a lot of time outside for sunset, but still I would pop outside for sunset. So because it's free, red light, that is free
Right.
red light therapy, everybody.
Yes.
But I bought a red light panel, and I bought it from Midwest because I really liked the company, and I just bought a small one for my son. And then he wasn't really using it at the time. And I had read all the research on red light therapy, and they're not cheap. And so I thought I'm going to use it and see if it just helps my eyesight because I'm in my 50s, and I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know why I could have thought wrinkles or something, but I thought eyesight. And so I started using it, and that's when I noticed this really sharp increase in the mornings of my energy and feeling really grounded and clear in the mornings. And I always thought I did pretty, I mean, I didn't realize I had an issue with that until you start feeling so much clearer. So and then of course I got the bigger panel and started, and now he uses the red light a lot more frequently, but I use the thing all the time. And because I've just noticed, especially if I'm having a hard day or if I need to make a decision about something that I feel like I'm struggling with, I'll go sit in front of the red light, and I swear I get smarter by the second while I'm sitting in front of that thing. Things just get clearer. I don't know if it's also because I have one that's the red light with the near infrared too, and just the deeper penetration,
Yes.
the lowering of inflammation, even the heat, it just feels good to me to,
And maybe the hydration.
and the hydration, of course,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
easy water. Like and I put it on my belly. So if I don't feel like being in a bikini outside, which I always feel like being in a bikini outside, but if you can't and you need a few minutes and you can't change, I can get some of that near infrared light. The infrared is diversifying the microbiome better than anything I ever learned in nutritional therapy. So, yeah. Did I answer that question?
You did, and you gave me ideas because I have a unit, and like you, I'm in my 50s, and the number 60 is getting closer every day. And yeah, and the vision, my arm is not, I find in dim light, I'm struggling a bit, and I bought readers, but they're too strong. So
Yeah.
and I keep hearing once you start using the readers, you can't go back. So I'm really resisting. So I use a magnifying glass sometimes here and there. I look silly, but yeah, so the question is, did you notice anything with your vision?
Yeah.
You have
So
any improvement?
I actually have so far, knock wood, I haven't had trouble with the reading, but I have more trouble with blurry vision long distance. And what
Okay.
I noticed, and I never have my glasses. I'm one of those people that I think I can see fine. And then I put the glasses on. I'm like, oh, huh. Okay. There are actual, leaves on that tree. So I never have them when I would I take my mom to church on Sundays, and I would read the screen for when the music comes on, they have them up on the screen, and we sit in the same spot every time. And I noticed that it was becoming less and less blurry to me. And
Hmm.
now I can read it just fine without glasses. So when I do have to wear my glasses, like driving at night, they're too strong for me now. Um,
Interesting.
and so, yes, I did notice an improvement in
Oh.
my eyesight. And so far, I'm the only one around me of my friends in my 50s that has not has not had to purchase the readers yet.
Yeah, the same for me. And so a couple things on that. I wonder about the blocking the blue light and how protective that is, that piece, right? So I'm going to say something about. Oh, yes. So here's the other question, and also for our listeners, I don't want them to go out and buy a red light panel and then, put their eyes in front of it and stare at it.
Right,
Can you-
right.
yeah, can you just tell us how you like you were initially doing it for your eyes? How far away were you from it? Did you have your eyes open? Did you have anything protecting your eyes? Can you share a little bit on that?
Right. That's a really good point. I'm glad you brought that up, Laura. So I did not wear the eye protection that came with it. I just keep my eyes closed.
Okay.
I think I had been around the quantum biology collective enough to know I didn't really need the eye protection. And
Right.
because I was trying to help my eyes, but now I walk around it's in my closet is where I keep the red light because that's easier when you're undressing or dressing. It's just right there and you get a few minutes.
Okay, right.
And so if I just have it on while I'm in the room, I have my eyes open. But if I'm sitting in front of it, I'm probably 7, 8 inches at least away from it, maybe 12 inches away from the panel with my eyes closed. And the research I was looked at when I first started doing the research on specifically red light and eyes and healing our eyesight, it was varied. So
Mhm.
sometimes it was 3 weeks, twice a week for 3 weeks, and 2 and 3 minutes, sometimes longer. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to pick something. So I started doing 3 days a week, about 3 days a week. And I tried to just sit there for 5 minutes if I could. So sometimes maybe 2 or 3 minutes, depending on how much time I had. And I loved it so much that I started increasing my time and more parts of my body. So then I got the bigger panel,
Okay.
right? And I still keep my eyes closed without the eye protection. And I will do about 20 minutes per side or per area if I've got something that's hurting, I might do 5 or 10 minutes specifically on that area. But for eyesight, it wasn't every single day at first. And it was only, up to 5 minutes.
The multitasker in me wants to
Mhm.
ask you, do you multitask in that time? Are you meditating? Are you reading a book? Well, you can't read a book, obviously, but are you doing something? Is there something else Kelly's doing in that time when
Yeah,
you're
I'm
sitting here?
always multitasking and layering the healing. I love to layer healing. So if I
Okay.
can practice some visualization or meditation at that time, or if I'm working on, I can do my tapping,
Tapping,
so
right?
emotional freedom tapping, or
Right.
some added extra. I also really like to just sit there and do nothing and be still. So I just kind of see how I'm feeling. But
Okay.
yes, and when you're doing your back, you can read. Just saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Giving me hints because it'll be interesting to compare with Andeea what you do, but I have mine by the sink. And so it's my brushing the teeth, but I do have my eyes open. I'm just not staring at it. I'm
Yes,
doing other
that's fine.
things, and I'm, same thing. I'm out of the shower, it goes on, and it's that, putting cream on my face, just those little tiny things, brushing my hair. And that I find is 5 minutes, in the
Mhm.
morning. Typically morning is when I do it too. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm facing it, I close my eyes. I
You do.
mean, try to be smart. I'm not going to stare into this red light, right? But if I have my back to it, I do my gratitude journal or I'm reading or something. And that's always my second half. I do that because then I can continue whatever I'm doing when I turn it off.
Yeah.
Right.
That's, yeah. So we're all
Well,
And
have we
multitasking.
then my
all
baby
read?
photon right underneath my desk here. I
Ah,
call it baby photon. It's the sauna space. I call it baby photon. I don't think that's the actual name. That's just what
that's a
I named
cute
it
name.
because it's the baby one and just love that thing
Yeah.
right
I
Yeah.
here.
think we get
Love it.
attached. I'm sitting on my earthing mat. I mean, we just we all get attached to
We
the
get
things.
attached to little things.
Yeah. Well, that's so good. Yeah. Before I move on, there's a couple big subjects I'd love to ask you about. I just wanted to say it's interesting. Thyroid, you mentioned thyroid in your journey. That's been my journey. And also I did have a son who just announced one day, and I have anxiety. It was just for a short time, but it wasn't red light therapy. I wish I'd known about that. And I didn't have a unit at the time, but it was a quantum health strategy that through non-native EMFs, we think is how we helped, how he helped himself get through it. So I just wanted to, anyway, thank you. We have this is ongoing now, but we all know Kelly Bento we call her, she's known as the quantum mom. Andeea, I think we have to, would you say induct into the hall of quantum moms? We have to bring Kelly into that group now. We added Meredith Oak last week.
For sure.
Yeah, we
For
called her.
sure. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure as a quantum mom, you've been looking at quantum nutrition. And so I understand you have probably the equivalent of course that I have here in Canada. Ours is called holistic nutrition, but yours
Mhm.
it's a nutritional therapy. Is that right?
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
you studied. So well done. I love that you have all these different modalities and even we won't probably have time today, but just hearing I've been binge listening to your podcast and hearing about havening. So just want to throw this idea out to Andeea right now that we may have to get Kelly back on because there's so many more questions I have for her. But we do today really want to ask you a little bit about, because of your expertise in nutrition, what I like to use the word quantum nutrition. Some people will say ancestral seasonal diet or different sunlight diet or whatever terms, but what would quantum nutrition mean to you? And are the second part, well, I can ask it again, but are there nuances with that you use in the mental health space? Because that is your area of your zone of expertise, as Meredith Oak would say. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. So when I started studying nutritional therapy, I thought I have found the answers for all of mental health problems. This is it. It's
Right.
all about gut health and it's the gut brain axis and the microbiome and I have found it. And then I mean definitely helped people have some, I guess what would be called progress, right? They definitely benefited, but I couldn't quite figure out what exactly we were doing a lot of the right things. And yes, so really for me, ancestral health, I was really big into understanding ancestral health, but also very meat forward. So I was carnivore for 2.5 years. And
Were
so,
you?
yeah. So I
Wow.
had seen so many benefits from that personally. Never that my clients just weren't there, but I definitely helped people understand the importance of meat for mental health and amino acids. So essential amino acids, essential fatty acids, and really helping people dial in on how to eat so they're at least getting the nutrients and the most bioavailable
Right.
sources of those nutrients. So I'm not an anti-plant person, never have been. Just personally, I decided to take myself all the way and
Yeah.
see what would happen. So for me, we were seeing a lot of healing and I was really proud of the work, but it was like I was missing something. Like something's just, like, and I did amino acid therapy. I did specific training to learn how to use amino acid supplements to help people with mental health. And that was amazing. It can literally save somebody's life. And it was still not exactly, then they have to go live life and it just wasn't working. I mean, it was working, but it wasn't all of it. And then when you learn about quantum health and you start to go, okay, this makes sense on a cellular level, we're really talking more about seasonally appropriate food. Like light food is light, right? And so it's information. So I was looking at it in terms of nutrients, right? And helping people with that, but not really understanding the information that it's sending and the signaling that goes on inside of our cells. So for me, quantum nutrition is connecting mitochondrial health, circadian health, and the nutrition piece. And so understanding eating seasonally so that your mitochondria are not so confused. Because
Right.
even if you're eating what we're taught in nutritional therapy school, which I loved my nutritional therapy school. I loved the people, I loved everything about it, but something that could be healthy doesn't make any sense if you're living in an area that doesn't grow. So you're just confusing your mitochondria. And then when everything is in sync, so the light environment matches the food that you're eating, then the body's like, oh, I know what season we're in. I know what the microbes need to look like. I know what needs to happen here, what time of day it is, when to do what. So it was more about the timing of food, the types of food that you eat for it to match the light environment that you're in. And then I think the biggest nutrient deficiency that I ever saw but didn't know was sunlight. People are afraid of sunlight. And even if they're not afraid of it, they're still deficient in it. So,
Right.
and I had no idea, Laura. I don't know if you were taught this, but I had no idea that the gut dysbiosis is more of a circadian issue at
Yeah,
its
no,
root.
I had no clue. No clue.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting because when you can put all the pieces together for people, then their mental health, their stress, mood swings, like all of that just clears itself up. And then all the other tools that we can use and teach people, because I'm still really big into getting trauma recovery and those kinds of things. It all works so much better when the
Right.
body isn't confused and the timing isn't off everywhere inside of the body.
Yeah. And back to Uncle Jack,
Uncle Jack.
Uncle
Yeah.
Jack, he likes to say that it's not a food story, it's a light story. And
Yes.
he's right. But, I wanted so much to just give up on food because I don't know about you, but it got really detailed doing menu plans and,
Mhm.
just so much time and then going into things like chronometer and the time it takes to plug in food and to figure out, what minerals, very, very detailed. And there's a part of me that just wants to tell everybody, just go out in sunlight, it's so much easier. But food still has a role because you said it, it's light. So glad you said that. And I'm so glad you said, I'm going to try and get this quote that the microbiome knows what microbes to express,
Yeah.
and it's so brilliantly said because it is, you know, everything works together, the mitochondria, the microbiome.
Mhm.
And that you said it, gut dysbiosis is a circadian problem. And I would add, but it's really in there, but it can be a sunlight deficiency. And it was Heather
Right.
Shepard that really explained that well, I thought, in terms of
Yeah.
getting light on your belly. If you've got
Yeah.
gut dysbiosis, the number one thing to do. And going back to your red light
Mhm.
story, red light photobiomodulation, that would be one of the first things I do with people. And I haven't done that. I haven't had the client yet to actually say, just because they don't have a unit, but so interesting.
They have outdoors and they can get a bikini
Yes.
at
Yeah.
or if
Yep.
they're a man, they don't need to worry about, yeah, you just go out and shirtless and get your belly in the sun.
Here, okay, another question. You've just alluded to it, and I'm, in my podcast binge listening to the
Mhm.
nurse. So I've heard you hint, but I haven't heard the story. It's probably in there somewhere. But you talked about is it sugar? Did you have some sugar addiction? And did you find a couple things? Did you find the carnivore journey that you did? Did that help with that? And now that you've brought more carbs back in using, appropriate carbs
Mhm.
matched with the light story that raised them, grew them, is it gone, or is it an ongoing challenge?
It's not gone. Yeah, and thank you for binge listening to the
Uh,
Nursel podcast, and I wanna hear what you like, what you don't like about that on another day.
okay.
But yes, and the sugar addiction, I think when I quit drinking, that became real clear because when I quit drinking, it was like, well, now I can have whatever, you allow yourself to eat sugar to get yourself through the social things because
Right.
it's kind of sucks to be the only sober one there at first. Not now, but it did at first. So I would let myself have stuff that then I realized like the sugar had a hold on me. Really, caffeine was the first thing that I noticed was really hard for me to moderate. I would get to the end, even of a kombucha, like something that's supposed to be healthy for our microbiome, and I'm doing it for that. But it's caffeinated. So, and the sugar, probably the combination of sugar and caffeine is always a problem for me. Like with chocolate, I love dark chocolate, but I was gone way past medicinal with it. I would get to the end of the kombucha and it was like I just needed more. And it was this
I understand.
weird, like gnawing feeling. And then I had to use my will to try and stop it. And so that's when I actually went to AA because I was like, well, they'll let me in because I don't drink and I'll just see. I guess I
Interesting.
got to figure out and see if the 12 steps, because I didn't really feel like I matched with Overeaters Anonymous. And I found a sugar sober group that I really connected with. And I was like, oh, these are my people. But I had to kind of find my way through that. And it is still an issue,
Mhm.
even stevia. So I recently was at a retreat and we had some, whatever it was, like some protein powder things or these power pucks. I don't regulate them and I feel sick and then keep eating. Like it
Yep.
that's the problem, is that, and then I feel awful about it. And then I beat myself up a little bit. Even with all my training and everything I know, it's really hard to not have those limiting beliefs show up. And it's just interesting. They call it in the recovery world, food addiction recovery, we call it red dog. That thinking that you go long enough that you're like, might not have a problem. I'm on vacation. I should
Right.
probably just, when in Rome, eat,
It's the same thing
it,
with substance use and the
yeah,
NA or AA or yeah.
it's
We
exhausting.
try to control our
Yeah.
use. Yeah, nope,
Yeah.
I'm relating to every piece of this, Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the
Same.
same. But it took me a while to go, holy crap, that's addiction. Like, yeah, that was, yeah, hard to swallow. You know how they say like swallowing truth is like swallowing sand? I felt like I had the
Whoa.
whole beach was like upon me.
Oh, I have never heard that. That's a good one. I'm writing it
Mhm.
down.
Yeah.
So are you sugar
Oh,
free now, or do you just
yeah. Yeah.
are
Yeah.
you full like, because in my journey I've sugar's been an issue. I can remember as a kid going into the fridge and stealing, like my mom made the best desserts, cherry cheesecake, and oh sorry, I got a little golden. I got to just pause for a second here. Oh, I think he's okay. And yeah, and then now it's chocolate. It was dark chocolate. I'm better with milk, but there's more sugar in milk, and there's a caffeine issue, and so it's very interesting going from when you're totally like absolutely none abstinence and you're totally in control, and then you go, okay, no exclusion. I want to be able to just live my life, but keeping that in control. So that's where I think, I wonder how much the quantum, I know that it's worse when I'm not, my circadian rhythm is off. I know it's absolutely worse.
Yes, I've noticed that. Yeah, Andeea is nodding too.
Yeah.
Yes. And what I noticed, you asked me about carnivore. So the carnivore was it was so helpful for me. So it's not for everyone, I get it, but when I go off the rails ever, like last summer when we were in England, I was just experimenting with things, dairy, caffeine, sugar, not good for me. So we got back. I was like, okay, I got to get it together. For me to reset everything, carnivore just works beautifully. So it just makes me feel so much better. The energy that I have to put in to try and regulate or moderate is just, it's exhausting when I start adding carbohydrates back. And it is a slippery slope for me. So yes, I'm doing seasonal and local, and I'm just sort of tiptoeing because I'm really hoping that with all the quantum health issues, and I think my biggest issue when I look at thyroid and all the things growing up, I think on my mother's side, like you can see, it's mitochondria. Like we probably have had dysfunctional mitochondria for many generations back. And so the more I heal my mitochondria, the more I'm hoping that it just gets a little easier. But I am also completely okay with the fact that I have to abstain. There are certain things that I have to abstain from those. As sad as I am that dark chocolate is out, dark chocolate is out because
It's
I love feeling good. I love when I wake up and I feel really clear. And I've also noticed, and this is part of the stress resilience course, this is why I wanted to teach people this, because I could see when a stressful, really stressful thing happened, when I am not abstaining, it's so much harder for me to move through it. It drags me down as opposed to when I am on point with all of the quantum health and I'm abstaining from the things that are really addictive for me. I I just move through things in a much smoother way. Yeah. Oh, you're muted.
there's so much more I want to delve into that, but we're gonna have to have you back for sure on that topic. But I know we don't have so much time left. I really want to make sure, for one, we ask you tell us in a nutshell about your courses that you offer.
Okay.
Can I have to
Yeah.
just let a dog out? I'll be right back. So you carry on here, Andeea.
Okay. I'll
Sounds
carry
good.
on. We'll carry on. And I appreciate you asking about the courses because I'm so proud of the courses. Yeah. So
Yes, they're wonderful.
the quantum stress management course, I was so excited to put that together because it's exactly what helped me when really the shit was hitting the fan. And I was so blown away by how I could still show up and my nervous system really felt regulated. And I felt like I was nourishing from on a subatomic level at that point. So I made that course. And then the food mood course, it's just so many people ask me questions about what kinds of food to eat and how to, and I put it together in a course that would be, I hopefully really simple for people to get all of the food moods. So those are the courses. I have a couple of workshops too that we all have on the quantum
Yeah.
space, but those are the two main courses. And
Yes.
I've been thinking about a lot helping anxiety moms. So moms of kids that have anxiety and our own anxiety. So I've been thinking about a course around that. So we'll see.
So that's what's next, kind of.
Well, that we're going to ask what's next.
Well, we can, since, yeah, it's a nice segue into what's next.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And you actually, Andeea, have helped me so much get clear about what I do want and to want what I really want, like allow myself to want it and to really like I could cry because it's so exciting about what's next. Like I'm getting clear about who I want to help, but I started a mentorship group and it was really one of the QBC members reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be willing to do a small mentorship group over the summer?" And I'd been thinking about doing it in the fall anyway, like a trauma-informed health practitioner mentorship, right? Especially quantum health, nutrition, putting all of it together in the mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And when she asked, I was like, yeah, yeah, it was the sacral, absolutely yes. But I still had a lot of like doubts and stuff. And I started the group last week, long story short. And I had the best day of work I have had probably ever in my life. I've done so many things, and this was the best. I was so energized. And I thought, how did it take me this long to get here? But whatever. So that's what's next for me. I am so lit up about mentorship and really helping practitioners hone in on the trauma informed practice, right? And combining everything. And as hard as it's been for me to find my niche, I am so good at figuring out what you need to do as a practitioner. I can see all the possibilities. And so it's been really fun to help people with everything from imposter syndrome and the doubts and the stuff that comes up for people to the really practical stuff of like what needs to go into my intake form so it's trauma informed.
Yeah, that is so amazing. And who wouldn't want to be mentored by you? You have
Oh,
just years and years of
Yes.
experience to share with people. I can picture you right now in my head just lighting up that room. And the fact that you're, when we mentor and we teach practitioners, we touch many more lives than we can on a one-on-one. And so, you're really truly being such a service to this community, and just want to thank you for that so, so much. And putting out all the courses that you put out. These are topics I don't know about you, Laura, but I have not seen anyone else putting out the specific course topics that you're putting out. And to, speak to something Laura said earlier about the entering the food and the things, I think all of us have a little bit of chronic dieting in our history, or yo-yo dieting, or whatever you want to call it. And that is not sustainable. Like, it wasn't sustainable for me putting everything in chronometer, measuring my food, like, and then when I found the quantum nutrition, we're going to call it, because that's what
yeah.
both of you are. When I found quantum nutrition, it was like, I just have to follow Mother Nature's rules. It's that easy. Like, no, I can't eat all the things that I can't like overindulge, but I can actually have foods that I was restricting before. Like, I was fine to eat, yeah, a whole, Lily bar or a whole whatever bar, but I would be like, oh, I'm not sure if I should eat those cherries. Like, just completely backwards.
Well, that was a great
Thought.
example.
And another thing is, many, many, many of us, and this has been brought up just the last 15, 20 minutes, cross addiction is real, people.
Oh,
Oh
And
yeah.
we need to give ourselves some grace when it comes to, getting out of something that was, when it comes to substance use or some kind of addiction. If it's wreaking havoc on your life, then yes, then it's probably problematic, and we need to either be abstinent or find some kind of structure around it. Like with food addiction, it's not like we can't eat.
That's right. That's
So
right.
we need just structure around it. So
right.
I want people who are listening to realize, like, there are behavioral addictions that are going to follow you into early recovery, especially if you're in recovery from substance use or something like this. You're going to find yourself maybe having a behavioral addiction of some kind. And if it's something where you continually have to do it for the rest of your life, like me, I had a huge spending addiction, huge shopping addiction. Changing my value system with quantum and all of the things that I've learned throughout the years has helped, because I'm going to have to spend money. I can't go through my life without spending. I need structure around it. That
Right.
structure for me was changing my value system, and it just slowly, it went away. But
Mhm.
just want to share with people that that is what was being discussed, is cross addiction, and it's very real, and we're here to support you. And so is Kelly, and so is Laura. Thank you
Yeah.
so, so much, Kelly, for being here today. We definitely are going to have you back to speak about some other topics that we might have touched on and didn't get to ask all the questions about. But
Andeea,
where
can
can
I ask
people
your,
find you before we
oh,
let
sorry.
you go?
Okay, what were you gonna ask, Laura?
Yeah.
I want to ask you, we've been trying this out and getting some
Oh,
incredible answers. What does it mean to you to be quantum healthy?
yes.
Oh gosh. Yeah, you told me you were gonna ask that too. And
First person we warned.
I know, because that's such a great question. And I feel like for me, that when I can be fully present in my life and in body, like not go into my like analyzing things or out here, but to actually like just be present in my body and in my life, that feels quantum healthy to me.
Love
And
it.
the more I practice the quantum health strategies, the more I've been able to do that, where I actually feel aligned to my soul. So that's what alignment with the soul and being fully present in this moment. That, I guess that's my answer.
Wow.
Love it. And thank you,
Wow.
Laura, for our most important question.
Question.
Thank you for remembering.
Oh gosh.
Yes. So Andeea, you asked me, where can people find
Yes.
me? Yeah. So Instagram is my place. I'm on the other social platforms, social media, but that's where I like to be. That's where I like to interact with people at Dr._Kelli. And then nourished-soul.com is my website. And yeah, lots of
And we'll
lots
link
of stuff
there for
going on.
people too.
I appreciate that. Yeah,
Yes.
this is so fun. And I mean, when we get quantum health folks together and we just get to sit here and geek out, I love it. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Kelly, for joining us. And thank you for everybody who's listened. And we will see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the Quantum Healthy podcast. We hope you found some value in this information. And if you feel inspired, please share it and leave us a 5-star review. This will help us reach so many more people. If you want to connect with Laura, you can find her at laurakissmannwellness.com and Andeea at andeearay.com. Links are below in the show notes. Now, go find some sunlight and embrace your own quantum healthy.